In this video, I'm going to show you how we use the tamping module within GEDO Office. So in GEDO Office here already, I already have my file loaded in. I have my measurements loaded in. Now you can just go straight and create an analysis to check your data off, but using the GEDO Tamp module, we don't need to run through the analysis of processing the data. We can do that straight from GEDO Tamp. So I'm going to take this file, just going to use rename to copy the file name, and then if I right click here on GEDO Tamp, paste that in there, I'll just create a new one. So it's looking for your alignment data and your measurements. So if I just drag and drop that in there, it'll then run through the process of processing all my measurement runs and adding that into the Tamp module. So now you can see we now have an alignment and we have our data set loaded in. So if I go back into under the Tamp module, our tamper file we've created, you see here we have all our information in here for our changes, our lifts for slews, cants. It also gives you information in here for point type, a coded point. We've added in some points for over bridges, the reference rail, position of the rail, project name, etc, etc. In the graphics tab, it will show you the shifts measured and the shifts corrected for your horizontal and your vertical. So you'll notice here we have a mode up here. So we have measured data mode. So in the measured data mode, this basically allows us to go in and check our data for any errors, spurious points, anything that we notice that's incorrect, and then we can edit it. So anything we edit here from the measured tab will then be shown in the corrected tab to show us what it is we're going to actually be using when we take it forward. Now you can flick between these modes here, to the measured mode and then the tamping mode. So in the tamping mode, it's not possible to then start editing any of the line work itself. See, we've got our lifts and our slews and our cants. Can't actually edit them, but what we can do is add in ramps just to make sure we're within the tamper range. You'll see here you have these red lines, so we can set a range on due to the attributes of the tamper, what its maximum lift is. We can set that in here and then we can view it against what we're actually proposing to do on site. From there we can then change our alignment slightly depending on what run we're doing, just to keep it within the limits of the tamper itself. If you need to change any of that stuff, you can go to the edit tab and options, and if we go under GEDO Tamp, you see we have different options in here for display. So we can display stuff like point names, minimum maximum level lines is what I showed, change values. We can add in some of this stuff here that will show on the graphics. We also have under here any scaling we want to view it. Now under limits, you have in Germany basically they have different bands that they work to depending on the runs. So maybe their first run or second, whatever, but they'll basically have these set limits that they'll work to. However, if you just use the H/V, we can change that minimum maximum levels, and that will be displayed here in our minimum maximum that we're seeing, residual lift, maximum slews. We can check the ramps as well for any, if we have a grade we want to check for our lift and slew and our ramps. So if we go back into the data tab here, and I'm under measurement mode, For instance, you could, if you had one of these incorrect, so if you had a whole bunch of them here where the reference rail was wrong, you could highlight them, right click and then swap the reference, and that'll switch that from left to right. Likewise, we can do so with the position. If we double click on our point types, for instance, we can change these here as well. So we can have it as a pull point is basically indicating that it was a reference point. One of the things we can add in here is constraint points. So for instance, if we go to our overbridge here, double click on that and I change that to a constraint point. When we're running our ramps, we can set that as basically a point where we're constraining the design, so we don't want any lifts and slew to be applied over that area, for instance, through the overbridge. So any one of these, if you have further points in your project, you can change the ballast point. It's just a coded point. If I double click that, I can go in and change it. But usually in here, you probably want to change it, if anything, to a constraint point. So now we're going to go into tamping mode now, and we're going to look at placing our ramps if we're required to. So if we're just going to define a default ramp here in the horizontal, just by clicking on what is the design alignment. I'll select default ramp here. Define default ramp. It'll create a default ramp along the alignment, so the whole job we're looking to basically tie into the alignment. If I click along, for instance, if I zoom in here, down at the bottom of the job, and I to the icon, select one of the chainage here, I can define a start and end ramp. So I can define the start ramp at that specific chainage, or I can edit the chainage. Something to minimum length, maximum slope, select that. If we back up the other end of the project, so pick a point here, define start end. I'm going to define my end ramp this time, edit that chainage. And there I've created my start and end ramps. You can also see you can get some information on the side here, just with some of the information about the ramp itself. If I need to edit any of this, I can select the moving icon. For instance, I can move that down to where it needs to be. I can also, if I click on the ramp itself, I can insert an intermediate point. So I can add additional points in here. Back on the alignment. So you can edit the ramp that way as well once you've created it. We had a constraint down here that was set with a constraint point in the overbridge. See here when I go in there, this will flag these points in red. If I select these points, I can define a constraint point in my ramp. So it says creates a ramp for a pair of constraint points. To select these constraint points, the pair must have lower chainage value. So you need to pick the lower one, and then you can get a minimum length to ramp it at. And then that'll just ramp it on existing over the set length to cover that edge of constraint points, i.e. through the bridge or overbridge. And again, you can edit some of these points. You can edit as well your ramps, move them around, and continue on doing the same for your lifts. On your tamping project here, if you right click it, you'll have some options here. There is an options tab, which is similar to the main options. You have your scales here you can apply for view settings, and also what you want to view on here and what tamping run it's actually using. The limits that you set in the main menu here, so you can set that in there. You also can reduce the points, so you can reduce the point spacing depending on what you require to put the points out at. So with the IMS system, you're going to be measuring points just continuous throughout the whole site. So we can reduce that down and just say, look, we only want it at 5 meters or 10 meters or whatever. We can set that to reduce it. So it's actually detected 136 points and placed them at that setting. If we then go in here, we can export our file, and you'll get a whole series of formats. Mainly you're going to be using ALC versions, but you have different formats here that you're able to take out. So we set that for that. And it's just a case of saving the file. So on export, it's going to ask you if you want to create a grid at various distances here. So 5 meter set, what the working direction is, if we want to actually use and assign our minimum tamper levels. Well, I'm not going to bother with any of that. And with that, the file is then exported.